So why does gender-based violence actually happen? It's a huge question, right? And a lot of the time, the answers we hear are just, well, they're not the full story. Today, we're going to dig a little deeper. We're going to unpack the societal assumptions and the inequality that are really at the root of the problem. Let's get into it.
And just so you know, the ideas and the activities we're going to talk about today, they're based on some amazing materials from a professional development program by the PROTECTWomen project. It's all designed to help us get a much clearer handle on this really important issue.
Let's start with this. This quote from Maryam, a 62-year-old woman from Iran, just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It's all about what we are taught to believe. These aren't ideas we're born with. They're learned, and they have some serious, real-world consequences.
Okay, so building on that, here's the absolute core idea we need to grab onto. Gender-based violence isn't just a bunch of random one-off incidents. No, it actually grows directly out of the soil of gender inequality.
So here's the official definition, and a few words here are just so critical. Gender-based violence, or GBV, is a societal problem. That means it's systemic. It's baked into our cultures through these patriarchal norms, those unwritten rules about how men and women are supposed to behave.
And if you boil it all the way down to its most simple, basic element, GBV is about power. Plain and simple. It's what happens when an imbalance of power is taken advantage of. And we're not just talking about physical strength here. This is about systems of control built right into our social structures.
And that power, it shows up in all sorts of ways. It can be economic, like controlling the money. It can be political, through laws or who gets to make them. It can be social, through things like status and what the community expects of you. And yeah, it can even be educational, by limiting who gets access to knowledge and opportunities. It's a whole system.
So if these power imbalances are the engine driving all this, then what's the fuel? Well, it's all those norms and stereotypes that we absorb, a lot of the time without even noticing. Let's take a look at how those beliefs really work.
So what are gender stereotypes? You can think of them like these little mental shortcuts. They're these super common, but often totally wrong, ideas about what's appropriate for men and for women. And they are everywhere, from movies and TV to conversations around the dinner table.
And I mean, you've heard these before, right? Women are just more emotional. The man needs to be the provider. Or a classic one, boys don't cry. How about, there must be something wrong with a woman who doesn't want to have children? These ideas put people into tiny little boxes and limit who they can be.
And this is where it gets really serious. When society hammers home the message that women should be agreeable, should be the ones to keep the peace, it creates this enormous pressure. It can make leaving a dangerous situation feel like a personal failure, trapping someone in a really harmful cycle. But wait, it gets even more complex. Because we can't talk about gender without talking about intersectionality. This is such a crucial idea. It's about understanding that all the different parts of who a person is, their race, whether they're an immigrant, if they have a disability, all these things can overlap and create totally unique and often much harder experiences of oppression.
So the bottom line is, the challenges aren't the same for everyone. A woman who's a migrant might be terrified that if she reports her abuser, she'll be deported. A woman with a disability could be completely dependent on her abuser for her daily care. These are extra layers of risk that make people incredibly vulnerable.
So, how on earth does a society keep a system like this going? Well, one of the most powerful ways is by making it seem normal. And a huge part of that is the twisted and deeply flawed logic of victim blaming.
Have you ever heard questions like these? Well, what was she wearing? Why didn't she just leave him? Or how about, she must have provoked him? Every single one of these questions, whether it's meant to or not, does the same thing. It shifts the blame away from the person who chose to be violent and puts it right onto the person who survived it.
This kind of logic is so common, it can be really hard to see just how bonkers it is. So the source material has this fantastic little exercise. We're going to take that same line of questioning, but apply it to a totally different crime. Say, a street robbery.
Okay, so picture a courtroom. The victim, a Mr. Smith, is on the stand. The lawyer starts asking questions. So far, seems pretty standard. Mr. Smith says he didn't fight back because, well, the guy had a gun. A pretty logical, self-preserving choice, right?
But then, the questions start to change. All of a sudden, the focus is on Mr. Smith's choices. You were out at 11 p.m.? Doing what? You can feel the implication, can't you? That somehow, just by being there, he was part of the problem.
And there it is. the smoking gun. It's the exact same logic as, what was she wearing? Now the lawyer is grilling him about his suit, suggesting that by looking successful, he was basically advertising himself as a target.
And that's the final chilling question, asking for this to happen. When you hear it like that, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, doesn't it? No one would ever say a robbery victim was asking for it. And that's the whole point. This simple exercise just blows the lid off the unfair, nonsensical logic we so often apply in cases of gender-based violence.
Seeing that flawed logic for what it is, that's a huge step. But the real work, the hard work, is internal. So, the source materials give us 3 practical activities to help us challenge the biases we might not even know we have.
Think of these as 3 tools for your mental toolbox. They're designed to help us face our gut reactions, to really question the stories we tell ourselves about men and women, and to get better at spotting that victim-blaming logic when we hear it, out in the world, and maybe even in our own heads.
And that's really the goal here. This isn't about guilt or making people feel bad. It's about awareness. It's about taking our unconscious biases and making them conscious, because only then can we actively choose to think and act in a way that helps build a safer, more equal world.
Wow. Okay. So we've gone from these huge societal structures all the way down to the quiet, unconscious thoughts in our own minds. Understanding the problem is the foundation, for sure. But the real change, that starts with us looking inward.
And so, that brings us to our final thought. I want to leave you with this question to just kind of chew on. After everything we've talked about today, what's one assumption you have about gender, about power, about anything that might be worth taking a second look at? The answer to that question could be the beginning of something really powerful.